Lots and lots of people are starting home businesses, starting internet online businesses. What are some of the most efficient, proficient perhaps, ways of monetizing your wisdom?
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning back into Second Act TV. Welcoming Carla Rieger back to our show for another segment talking about reinventing, recreating life after 50. Carla, thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, Carla, of course, is the CEO of the Artistry of Change Training, Inc., and she specializes in communication and mindset skills to help people like us recreate and reinvent life after 50. Carla, we just finished talking about, getting a grip of ourselves in these chaotic times and getting emotionally prepared to be able to set out and recreate when some of us have been pushed into it, maybe perhaps sooner than we would have liked. But being at that point now, lots and lots of people are starting home businesses, starting internet online businesses, and you, of course, specialize in helping people succeed and excel in that. What are some of the most efficient, proficient perhaps, ways of monetizing your wisdom?
Yeah, I think that's a really hot topic right now. And I'm passionate about it just because I do think if you're over 50, you should be sharing your wisdom. My gosh, when we're going through a time like this, in our tribal days, we always called on the elders for their wisdom. And that is a sign of a healthy society that does that. And so the good thing is there's no middleman so much anymore, right? We can, like you do, and like I do, I can just put my stuff out there and find the ideal match of people. So the top three ways, if you want to get monetized more quickly than not, are coaching. It could be either life coaching, business coaching, sales coaching, and we'll talk in more detail about, what that would look like for you. Consulting, and consulting is a little bit different animal, and I'll talk about the differences in a moment. And the third is online courses. So you're making audios, videos, maybe downloads, and you sell that. Now, I know that seems daunting to some people, but start with the simple one. The simplest one to get started with is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you sit down and talk one-to-one and with a friend and afterwards they feel so much better, you could be a coach, right? It's just, or if you've been any kind of teacher or instructor. And there's life coaching, there's business coaching, sales coaching, weight coaching, everything. And so the way to figure out what you should coach on is to really think about what do most people say you're good at that you help them with, or what's been your credentials and background and experience. So, for example, I have one client, was in human resources and then switched to a coach. And so she helps people who've been in human resources switch to being a coach. Right? So she did it. Like anything you did successfully, you could coach on that. The more specific, the better, especially when you're starting out. Don't kind of go, well, I can just help people succeed.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Like in pick an age range, for me, I help people over 50, that's a way to niche. You can niche to a gender like men or women. You can niche to people in your religious group or people who have a certain value system or people who've been in a certain occupation, all those ways, or just people who think the way you do. And so a good place to look is actually just who you are, right? Like if you help people like you, at the beginning, that's easiest. So I find a lot of the people I help are women around my age who want to do what I've been doing. So I'm a few steps ahead of them and I just help them, right? So that's a great place to look. I also have a little process called Explore Your Passions worksheets you can get for free if you want to get into the detail of that.
Yeah, make sure you give me the links to that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we'll link to that in the show notes. Gives you a longer process to get clear on an expertise mission statement that can help you focus. And the second one is consulting. And consulting is where you're doing that for a company or an organization. So they put you on retainer. You're often working from home and you have some specialty expertise in. So for example, my sister helps people sell their business,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you know how that you stage a home to make it more saleable. She stages your business so it makes it more attractive to sell, because obviously you got to have the numbers look good and the staff look good and the relationships, so she gets all that in place so that when the buyer, and then she helps them bring in a buyer. So think about your background and expertise that you would be helpful to someone else, because what a lot of companies doing are they're laying people off, but then they still need certain roles, so they're bringing on consultants. Again, the more tightly niched you are, the more likely you are to get a client, right? So think about any area of your expertise. Now, the third one is online courses. Now, that's a little more complicated because you have to learn how to, kind of like what Silky does, is create a video and edit it and export it and make sure you have the good sound and lighting. But if you really want to get started on it, you could start with just audio. So you get yourself maybe a good microphone, like I have this good microphone, and you just make sure that you teach, again, something that is niched, specific for a certain type of person who needs a certain type of solution. Again, you can use the Explore Your Passions worksheets to find out what that might be. You want to do obviously something you're passionate about, but also something that people will buy. Like if you can basket weave, great. Not so many buyers, right? Of course.
Yeah.
So you can start with an audio course. People will pay for an audio course. And it's just so interesting, again, that the more tightly niche, the better. So, for example, I have one client and she is an expert on honeybees and how to have honeybees create good honey. Like, that's really niche, right? And so she gets hired as a consultant, and also, but she's creating an online course. So if you are a honey retailer, she has a course for how to, retail your honey. She's creating a course for people who are, running beehives and how to best run a beehive. So because there's so few people doing that, she's like a world-renowned expert on bees, right? Because it's so specific, right? And so she gets asked to speak all over the world. Right now, we're focused for her on online speaking, but she's speaking at all these forums. So think about that for yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be something that you had a career in that you got paid for. Maybe you were beekeeping on the side. I had one client, she was just a journaler from like the age of 13 years old. She journaled every single day and she just developed all these interesting journaling techniques. She turned that into an online course, right? Other people have turned, how to make amazing hummus in your kitchen,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
There are people who will pay, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, exactly. Well, that's really a great point. And I actually help produce online courses. So yeah, and I have a couple myself, so I know exactly what you're saying, and it is surprising what people will pay for. You really threw out some great ideas. When it comes to coaching. When it comes to consulting or online courses, how our viewers could perhaps picture themselves, in those, or slot themselves, in those three fields. Carla, gosh, these segments go by so fast. We're coming to the end. How would you like to sum this one up? What would you like to leave our viewers with?
yeah, well, maybe go to Silky if you want to know about how to monetize online courses, because it is a bit complicated. If you do some sort of process like I'm talking about, Explore Your Passions worksheet, you'll kind of see also what would work with your personality style. Like, not everybody should be a coach, and not everybody should be a consultant, and not everybody should do an online course. And there's many others than those three, but it'll help you see what would work with your life and lifestyle.
Well, lots to consider, and that's really the purpose of these segments, is to get channel your thoughts, your thinking into some directions that maybe you haven't thought of before. So thank you for taking us through that, and I look forward to talking to you on our next segment of Second Act TV. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too. We'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.